Roddy Ricch was one of the hottest rappers of 2017-2018, delivering hard lines with a voice that was different from what the industry was used to.
Bitches who the hottest niggas, they gon' say us. All this jewelry on me, bitch, we shining like the last moon.
It's not like his style of music was so new, but at least he was a fresh voice in the scene. He talked about his life in the hood and how it affected his upbringing.
Ain't no other person helped me, co-sign me. Shout out to OT Genesis.
Which made him somewhat relatable. However, Roddy Ricch suddenly started getting trolled for the same music that people seemed to like so much, and it seemed like he didn't have anybody on his side. In fact, he deactivated his social media and just vanished into thin air. What happened to Roddy Ricch? And how did he go from rising star to invisible? Roddy Ricch was born on October 22, 1998 in Southern California, close to Compton. If you are familiar with rap, then you know Compton is on the West Coast, and notable music personalities like Suge Knight and Dr. Dre have repped the area. Apart from Compton producing hot musical talents, it was quite popular for its gang activities, which was largely spearheaded by the Crips.
Young niggas hopping out. I was like running around with my Crips, like all my cousins, like all my family, like Crips.
If there was a drug deal, a shooting, or anything at all going on in Compton, know that the Crips were heavily involved. Roddy Ricch was born into a Christian family, and by the time he was in 11th grade, he was placed in therapy and counseling to deal with his anger issues and antisocial behavior. Looking at Roddy Ricch, there's almost no way to tell that he had anger issues because he seemed so calm. But that was quite the contrary for him growing up. The therapy may have worked, or maybe Roddy Ricch got older and learned how to manage his emotions better. Either way, he told himself that he was tired of therapy and decided to call it quits. He stopped going to therapy and decided to see what life in the streets held for him. He stopped going to therapy and decided to see what life in the streets held for him. Roddy was never a devout Christian despite growing up in a Christian family, and his reason for not identifying with the fold was because his mom and grandma had a hard life despite always going to church. He knew there was nothing for him in church. It's not like he wanted to become a minister. Instead, he decided to pursue a career in rap. While he was still in high school, that was before he dropped out after skipping his therapy sessions, Roddy started to get interested in rap. He drew inspiration from Lil Wayne and Young Thug, and luckily for him, he grew up in the same church as Kendrick Lamar, who was already making his way into the music industry. But before Roddy got into music, he had a short stint on social media. After skipping therapy because he didn't like the sessions, he started expressing violent behaviors in public.
Yo, I was just telling you, man, I saw you at the XXL.
Like throwing rocks at restaurants and possessing a gun. He was arrested and spent a week in his city's county jail, which scared the rebellion out of Roddy Ricch, who then decided to turn a new leaf. After leaving jail, he decided to share his personality on social media and stay away from a life of crime. When Roddy Ricch started posting on TikTok and Instagram, he was getting traction, enough to help him kickstart a career in music, but he wanted something different. Other artists were using social media to promote their songs, but Roddy wanted to do it the traditional way. In 2017, Roddy dropped his first mixtape titled Feed the Streets, which featured songs like Chase the Bag, Position, and Hood Rich. The mixtape was epic because it gave people insight into Roddy Ricch's life as an underprivileged kid who was now chasing his dreams after getting roped up in a life of crime. Roddy was laying it all bare for the world to see without caring about how they were going to perceive his distinct style of music, and that helped him get his name out there. After the mixtape came out and some of the songs went viral through social media, Roddy Ricch got attention from big rappers like Nipsey Hussle and record producer Mustard, who would later collaborate with him on bigger projects. As his songs were making waves, he started getting invites to perform at big platforms. One of the first popular platforms he performed at was LA's Powerhouse Concert, which is quite popular for giving young artists an opportunity to shine and spread their wings. Roddy Ricch's performance had record labels waiting on him to give them his signature, but most importantly, he met a lot of great rappers that would play pivotal roles in his growth as an artist. By the middle of 2018, he released Die Young, which was in honor of his friend who died when he was a teenager due to gang violence. Roddy Ricch had worked to separate himself from that life, and now that he could do it using music, he was honoring his friend. Die Young went viral on YouTube and amassed over 120 million streams on Spotify, which was an amazing feat for a new independent rapper. In 2018, he worked with notable producers like DJ Marshmello and even snagged a Grammy nomination. With all that hype and momentum, Roddy Ricch released his first studio album called Excuse Me for Being Antisocial in 2019, and it stayed at #1 on the Billboard Top 100 chart for over a month. Roddy Ricch had a distinct rapping style, which seemed to be heavily influenced by his days as a young boy in church. His rap sounded like gospel rap, something you'd hear Lecrae rap, but his lyrics weren't glorifying any deity. Instead, he was talking about his struggles in the street and how he was trying to get out of that life, even if he knew it wasn't going to be easy. Roddy Ricch was showing us his fighting spirit, and everyone was praising him for it. But where there's fame, there's haters. And despite how many people loved Roddy Ricch, some people believed he wasn't actually from the trenches and was lying for his song. When he went to visit his neighborhood, some hood rats approached him and tried to press him as they recorded and claimed that he was lying about being from the streets. At that point, whether Roddy Ricch was from the streets or not, he knew he had to retaliate and jump the dude making atrocious claims. After the incident, fans of Roddy Ricch started claiming that he should have let the guy go and he overreacted. But imagine making a person argue about the validity of their upbringings. We know for a fact that there are rappers that come up with fake stories just to sell their records, but that didn't seem like the case for Roddy. He went through jail before he decided to stay away from street activities, and now people wanted him to convince them that he was from the streets. How does that even make sense? Although that stunt didn't make Roddy Ricch lose any form of credibility, the artist would use his hands to end his career. After releasing his first studio album, people started hoping for more exciting music, and that was when he decided to take a step back from the industry. Now, he did not completely disappear, but showed up occasionally to tease people with unreleased tracks. Roddy Ricch knew that the people were thirsting for him, but instead of giving them what they wanted, he started handing out scraps. The problem with this kind of arrangement is that in the rap industry, a new rapper is springing up every other day, and they are not just coming for show, they are stealing popular styles. After Roddy Ricch took a break to focus on himself, new artists were coming out and sounding exactly like him. The truth is, it wasn't just the lyrics that people liked his sound. Roddy Ricch was just yet another rapper to netizens, and if they could find someone else to sound like him, why would they want to wait for him? To even create buzz for themselves, these new rappers were not just rapping about crime, they were actively getting involved in the crimes. Unlike other rappers like Lil Durk who claimed to be hood but were never caught in a crime, these new rappers were committing crimes so they could rap about it. They were getting into gang wars and endangering the lives of people around them so they could show off as some kind of dangerous rapper to the world. They had the sound and they had the real experiences to back it up. Even if Roddy Ricch grew up in the trenches and had his fair share of bad experiences in the streets, he did not have an extensive criminal history to back up his music. Let's be real. Rap sells because of crime. These artists do questionable things and brag about it. Then they sell those records to their fans who don't really care for lyrics and they keep their pockets full. Look at rappers like King Von that had a known history with violent crimes, but was still heavily celebrated in the music industry as some sort of dangerous old block legend. It's simple. Rappers know that violence sells and they lean into it. So when there was a new wave of rappers talking about actual crimes, Roddy Ricch's name soon started to fade out. In fact, some people may have asked who Roddy Ricch was if they didn't think hard enough of the internet sensation that kept people a little bit sane during the lockdown in 2020. After teasing fans with so many unreleased tracks, Roddy Ricch decided to drop his second studio album, and that was when he knew that he didn't really have as many loyal fans as his follower count suggested. He dropped the album titled Live Life Fast, and although most of the reviews were somewhat positive, the album didn't live up to the hype. Prior to the album's release, Roddy Ricch had deleted all his Instagram posts so nothing would overshadow the album. He kept on using the album's name in his Insta story and creating so much buzz around the album such that people were ready to feast. Fans were glad that the rapper was coming out of hibernation to share his talent again and cleanse their ears of all the violent sounds they had been hearing. But Roddy Ricch returned with an album that was mediocre in comparison to his first studio album. Roddy Ricch seemed to have let all the buzz around his name get to him because Live Life Fast seemed like he wasn't putting any effort into his sound. The album also flopped because Roddy Ricch no longer sounded like Roddy Ricch. He was sounding like every other rapper that ever existed. One of the reasons people loved Roddy Ricch was because his music style was unique and reflected who he was as a person. But when he returned, the sound had been saturated and people wanted something fresh. The thing is, when you take a break in the entertainment industry, there's almost no coming back, except you are bringing something new. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is trying to become a celebrity and make big bank because it's actually a way to get out of poverty. We live in a capitalistic world, so it's only normal that people put their money on who's the most popular. And when the going gets tough, people shift their allegiance. Nobody is irreplaceable in the entertainment industry, no matter the level of love they receive. If Michael Jackson could be replaced as king of pop, what made Roddy Ricch assume his spot in the rap game was secure? The worst part was the fact that he got people riled up for his new album, only to drop a bunch of songs that sounded like everything everyone has heard before. People wanted something fresh, and Roddy Ricch seemed to have lost his charm. The good thing about the situation was the fact that Roddy Ricch was quite chill about the situation and started planning another comeback. If he could peek into his future, we are very sure Roddy Ricch would have given up on trying to impress people again, because he went ahead to release Out of My Mind, and boy oh boy were the reviews insane. Some fans said the song wasn't bad, but they knew Roddy Ricch could do better, while some straight on said that they wanted the 2019 Roddy Ricch back. The song had weak lines for an artist like Roddy Ricch, and it sounded like a studio experiment that should have never seen the light of day. Instead of taking the criticism before him and going back into the studio to see what good could come out, he decided to fold. After the negative reviews came in, Roddy Ricch posted that he guessed he was now a flop, and then followed that with a peace sign before deactivating his Instagram and Twitter accounts. Despite deactivating his social media account, his name kept on resonating with fans who would, from time to time, ask where the rapper was. Finally, in 2023, Roddy Ricch started making rounds in Nigeria, a country in West Africa for those who don't know. He didn't go for a concert or anything, he just wanted to meet new people and see what his fan base outside the US looked like, and he was impressed. In fact, he liked Nigeria a little too much and started having thoughts about buying a house in the country and settling down there, but he never went through with his plans. However, he was only allowed to enjoy his vacay in Nigeria for a short while before the fun was sucked out of him. A veteran artist called Greg Perry, in conjunction with Atlantic Records, sued Roddy Ricch for his song, The Box, and claimed that the rapper stole elements of Perry's song, Come On Down from 1975. We don't work in a courtroom, but it appears that Greg Perry's lawyers didn't advise him properly before filing the suit. The worst part of the suit is the fact that Atlantic Records was in on the lawsuit too, and they couldn't as much as ask one of their rappers to vet both songs. When the case got to court, it didn't last so long before the judge threw out the case because any jury could listen to both songs and know the difference immediately. In fact, looking at the covers of both songs, it was easy to tell that both songs wouldn't sound alike. Most artists these days sample old songs, but The Box was just an amazing record on its own, and Come On Down was something on its own. The Box was a regular rap song that talked about the rapper's escapades and his imaginary life as a gangster. He was having fun, showing a side of himself that people could have otherwise overlooked because of a calm personality. Come On Down by Greg Perry sounded like the kind of old love song your grandparents would sway slowly to because it reminded them of their younger days. If we were to categorize it into a genre, it would definitely be R&B with no single element of hip-hop. The song doesn't exactly sound like something that you could sample into a hip-hop song without permission because it would require a lot of reworking. It was a great thing that Greg Perry lost the case because it wasn't really a good look for him at the end of the day. How can't you tell when your music is not being played? The styles and every other thing was different. Since the lawsuit, Roddy Ricch has just been taking life one step at a time and has activated his social media again. But he doesn't post so much for a celebrity, especially for somebody that has planned to make a comeback. At the time of this video, Roddy Ricch was planning to drop his third studio album in June 2024, and there was not a lot of hype around the album. People were quite harsh on him for his second album, even though the majority of the reviews were positive. No matter how much people don't like to hear this, celebrities are as human as you, and for somebody like Roddy Ricch that has antisocial behaviors, harsh criticisms can make him pull back into his shell. Even if he decides to not release any new songs for the rest of his life, he's actually good to go with all the royalties he gets from his songs that people still stream. However, Roddy Ricch still needs grace. Of course, fans are allowed to share their opinions about his music, but it would be a good thing to know that he has a heart that can get hurt. The man isn't even promoting his new album that'll be out anytime soon, maybe out of fear that people won't vibe with it. Maybe he's trying not to get people's hopes up so they don't attack him if the album is below expectations. But who cares? The important thing now is for Roddy Ricch to refine his sound and come up with something unique. He may be replaceable and other rappers may have taken over his sound, but he still has the chance to redeem himself. It won't be easy because some fans are already convinced that the album won't really fly. But why write something off without giving it a chance? If Roddy Ricch has been on a low for so long, it's only right to expect that he has been working on his craft and is getting ready to blow us away. So let's give him a chance, shall we?